Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the New York State of Sports post-game shows here on IE Sports Radio, a direct feed for all that is sports. Ricky Keeler here with you to recap a memorable Game 6 in a game that will go down in Ranger lore. The Rangers down 3-1 after 2 periods, staring a potential Game 7 at home in the face after being up 3-0. But Chris Kreider wouldn't let that happen. A hat trick in the third period, an empty net goal by Barclay Goodrow, and the Rangers find themselves back in the Eastern Conference Finals for the second time in 3 years. We'll dive into Kreider's memorable performance. Igor Shesterkin once again stands on his head in the third period. And the Rangers still have some issues going into the conference final, but the fact of the matter is, they'll be waiting Florida or Boston in a few days back at the Garden. It's all coming up next here on New York State of Sports. We'll see you in a minute. You can follow me on Twitter at Rickator555. You can follow the show on Twitter at NY State Sports IE. You can follow the network at IE Sports Radio. You can also email me, rickjkeeler@gmail.com, when I get your thoughts on some of these games as the Rangers get to the Eastern Conference Final. Feel free to send your thoughts during the games. Maybe I'll read them on air. The Knicks tonight, one win away from themselves reaching the conference final. The positive momentum is back, and at times it didn't seem like it was going to be there, but we'll get into all that. I want to remind you, for the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has brought you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to keep up with the latest in sports and with our shows. Also, check out our daily updated website, iesportsradio.com, for the latest news, IE Sports Radio blog, our Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month, pages dedicated to each podcast, our IE Sports Radio community forum, and stop by the shop and check out the merch. Thanks for making IE Sports Radio a direct feed for all that is sports. So the Rangers take Game 6, 5-3, your final over the Carolina Hurricanes. They win the series 4-2. Crisis averted. But at times the crisis was there. I mean, it's hard to ignore it. Through 2 periods, the Hurricanes looked like the better hockey team. And it just kept making you wondering what went wrong with the Rangers. That all of a sudden they could play so well, win 7 in a row, 10 in a row if you count the regular season, and fall this flat. You give Carolina credit. That's a fast team. That's a team that's experienced. It's been in the playoffs 6 straight years. That core knows how to win knows how to be in these situations. But that core is kind of going to be reminded like the Rangers core almost was, as a team that didn't get it done. But it didn't start that way. Hurricanes got off to a fast start. They outshot the Rangers 10-3 in the first period. Early on, the Rangers were getting some good chances, but they were very few and far between. I think that's really the issue with this series, is Carolina got a lot of attempts. It just seemed like their attempts against Igor were more scarier than the Rangers against Frederik Andersen. But it was shot quality over quantity that ultimately won out. Where finally the Rangers, as we'll get to it toward the end of the game, were starting to get more bodies toward the net and pressuring Andersen a little bit more to make him crack. Second line, I thought, did a hell of a job. Trocheck, Panarin, and Lafreniere really were the only line doing a lot for the bulk of the first 2 periods. And it's hard to win when you only go with the one line a lot of the time. But Carolina struck first, turnover in the defensive zone. You could argue Igor should have caught the puck. And I think one of the big issues with Shesterkin, if there was an issue last night, it was more so the fact that he wouldn't freeze the puck on a lot of instances, but kept trying to get momentum going forward. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But that, he doesn't catch the puck. Gustafsson turns it over in the defensive zone. Carolina sets it up, and Martin Necas scores his fourth of the postseason from Martinook and Orlov at 18:38. And again, a late period goal. Some of the Rangers were allowing a lot even early in the series at the Garden. Carolina would find a way to score late in periods and kind of keep the momentum in their favor. A 10-3 shot advantage by the Hurricanes. The fact that only one shot by a Ranger in the first period came from a forward, and that was Chris Kreider. You could tell Kreider had the intensity all day. There, Jody Shelley, who does the on-ice reports for TNT during the game, said Kreider was working on the deflections during morning skate. So you could tell Kreider had a good emphasis on what he was going to have to do in this game. We get to the second period, and Peter Laviolette talks to Shelley. He says that, look, the Rangers, they thought, played a good period, but there was a lot of stoppages. In fact, there were no penalties in that first period. So the refs, I thought, had a very clean whistle, let them play. That's what you want to see in the playoffs, so that ends up happening. Jordan Martinook takes a high stick penalty. So the Rangers, there you go. You're on the power play early in the second period. It's a chance to get early momentum. We'll get the momentum back. And then Chris Kreider cross-checks Seth Jarvis on a shorthand attempt. Hurricanes get their own power play. And briefly into the power play, Seth Jarvis scores his fifth of the postseason from Aho and Svechnikov. So all of a sudden, Rangers are down 2-0. Where they've been more aggressive, but Carolina's, even on the power play, the Hurricanes are getting to them. But the Rangers answer right back. Less than a minute in, Vincent Trocheck deflects the shot in from Artemi Panarin. His sixth of the postseason. Panarin gets an assist. All of a sudden, it's a 2-1 game. But the problem for the Rangers was the odd man rush. Keandre Merrill misses a shot 4 minutes later. Hurricanes go up the ice. And then Sebastian Aho delivers his fourth of the postseason from Svechnikov and Jacob Slavin. And all of a sudden, it's a 3-1 game. Rangers had chances in the second period after that goal. You had Ryan Lindgren had a breakaway chance, slides the puck by Anderson. Somehow, Jordan Martinook kept that puck from crossing the line. Now, that call, unfortunately, doesn't get reviewed. I think it only gets reviewed by Toronto if it's called a goal. It was very close. I think it's one that if you had a challenge, you take it. But even if Laviolette challenges that, if it's allowed to be challenged, and he loses that challenge, Carolina's on the power play. So the disadvantage of now, if you're wrong, you're down 2 goals, and now you're short a man. So they couldn't afford to do that anyway. So that was just a bad break. Panarin goes on a breakaway, and Chatfield gets a stick on it to prevent Panarin from getting a good shot. He had a lot of good speed in that second period, but he had to have a lot of long shifts as well. So you could clearly see him fatiguing at points. And then the Rangers almost make a terrible mistake. With a minute to go in the second period, Jack Roslovic ices the puck. I guess he forgot where he was on the ice. But Carolina got a face-off near Igor with under a minute to go. Had a great shot to make it 4-1 and could not convert. So the Rangers avoided a mental mistake. So you're down 3-1 going to the third. You're getting some momentum, but you know the Rangers have to play their most aggressive period of the season. And this is why they're the comeback kids. I mean, they the most comeback wins in the NHL. They battle back. And right out of the gate in the third period, they came out aggressive. They were pushing the puck forward. As I said, Igor wasn't even stopping the puck. If he was getting the puck, he was pushing it up ice. And Carolina had chances. There was one from Jake Gensel that hit Igor's stick and was dangerous. And Aho had a breakaway when 2 Rangers fell into each other. So this game could have easily been 4-1, 5-1, and game over. But the Rangers didn't let that happen. 6 minutes in, Mika Zibanejad drives it into the crease. Chris Kreider was able to get it by Anderson's foot. It's 3-2. Then the Rangers get on the power play. Jordan Stahl called for a cross-check on Mika Zibanejad. You could argue that's not the best call. You could argue Zibanejad kind of helped that. But let's keep in mind that earlier in that period, about a minute or two before, Brady Shea clearly puts the puck out of play, and it should have been a penalty. The refs convene, but again, you can't challenge it, and the refs say that it was not a penalty. So maybe it's a make-up call. Who knows? But the Rangers get back on the power play. Panarin puts the shot on net. Kreider tips it in. Boom, 3-3. 4 minutes later, Kreider does it again on a great pass from Ryan Lindgren. Roslovic sets it up. 4-3 game. A natural hat trick for Chris Kreider. The Garden viewing party was going crazy. Full disclosure, I almost went to the Garden viewing party last night. Part of me wishes I did, because that scene had to be amazing. Kreider becomes the third Ranger to score a hat trick in a period in the playoffs, joining Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier. Mark Messier's hat trick came in Game 6 against the Devils in 1994. And what was also great about these two comparisons is Kreider just turned 33. Mark Messier was 33 when he got the hat trick. Both Kreider and Messier had natural hat tricks as well. And a natural hat trick, if you're not sure what that is when you score 3 consecutive goals. And to do it without an empty net goal is remarkable. And that's what Chris Kreider is known for. He is known for getting his body to the net, getting those deflections, being excellent on the power play. And that's why he's leader of this team. I know Jacob Trouba's the captain, but Chris Kreider to me is Mr. Ranger. I kind of view it as the David Wright of the Rangers. Doesn't have a Stanley Cup. That's why I can't go as far as to say Derek Jeter. But to have him go to the locker room after the second period, and Vincent Trocheck confirmed this, he said after that period, I'm getting one. Now, he didn't predict 3, which would have been fantastic. But to go and say, hey, guys, get on my back. I'm going to get it done. That Ranger team showed a calm demeanor. I ignored a lot of the outside noise from this show, that really didn't believe they could do it based on their track record. So they lead 4-3. Carolina gets some aggressive moves into the offensive zone. About 2.5 minutes left. They win a face-off, and the puck goes right to Svechnikov, and Igor makes a hell of a save to keep that from going out of the net. I don't think any other goalie makes that save. Rangers get their opportunities, and then Barclay Goodrow sends the puck down the ice. Empty net goal, and you can see the elation from the Rangers. I think it's both elation and relief. But to go in there after Carolina scored 4 goals in the third period in Game 5, to go into their building and score 4 goals in the third period of Game 6 and send them home, that takes a lot of guts. A lot of resiliency from this group. And to find a way to do what they did, in a game that was pretty, both teams won the same amount of face-offs. Rangers were able to only get 4 goals on 10 shots. But the offensive zone time was much better. They were able to at least establish some possession, and they made Anderson crack. The last time Anderson allowed 4 goals at home was against the Rangers in 23. So this is a team that clearly, again, you wonder if Rod Brind'Amour should have stuck with his backup that he had in Game 3, but it's a tough call. I had people on Twitter telling me during the game, when I was tweeting from our at NY State Sports IE account, which I try to do as many games as I can watch, and a lot of people are telling me they should put Jonathan Quick in, and I think the answer was no. I don't think a lot of the Rangers' deficiencies came from Igor Shesterkin. When he was facing all those shots, and it seemed like everything was coming at him so quickly, there's not a lot he can do. The Rangers' defense has to be better. And they try to switch things up on the D pairings. They put Trouba with Keandre Miller. They put Gustafsson with Brandon Schneider. And it still has some cracks, especially when they're turning the puck over. They're losing the puck and giving Carolina. They gave Carolina so many opportunities to strike. And that's what the Carolina tries to do. They try to go in the aggressive forecheck, and they make you to make mistakes. They made Igor make mistakes. There was a time where Igor shot the puck from his net, and it deflected. Unfortunately, it didn't deflect into a prime scoring chance. So this is a team that, again, when you look back at Chris Kreider's playoff career, and we could dive into it a little bit more. And I think we'll save that for the second segment. But but let's talk about Igor. He faced 16 shots in that third period. Remember, he had 17 saves on 20 shots in the first 2 periods. He was 16 for 16. This is a Hurricane team that thrives in the third period, especially in the postseason. One of the better third period teams in the NHL. I think they were outscoring their opponents 18-5, from what I remember. Remember, the Islander fans know firsthand what Carolina's capable of doing in the third. The Rangers saw what they were capable of doing in third periods. And Carolina was winning these games, at least the last couple. I know Aho had a goal and an assist in Game 6, but was the Jordan Stalls, the Jordan Martinook. Martinook looked like he was going to be the hero of the game. Stopping that puck. I mean, that was a heck of a job to keep that from going past Anderson over the red line. Remember, the puck has to go completely over the red line for it to be a goal. And to me, it looked like one, but again, you understand why the call stayed no goal on the ice, and it's not reviewed. But what Igor did to make the stick saves, the glove saves, was one where he had to dive across the net to make a play. And that's why he's one of the best goalies in the NHL. Now, again, he has a long way to be Henrik Lundqvist. We've talked about that a bunch on this show, but to be 16 for 16 in the third period and basically help keep the Rangers alive. Again, it looked like a game that could have been easily 4-1, 5-1. And Shesterkin kept the momentum going, or kept any positive hope going, because he was always there to make saves. You give credit to the Ranger penalty kill that only allowed 2 power play goals the entire series. And the power play finally woke up. Rangers were 0 for their last 9 on the power play until the goal by Kreider. On a power play that was 4 for 9 in the first 2 games. But they found a way to get the big goal, and they needed it. They found a way to strike when a time was necessary. And this is a team that knows each other. These two teams know each other very well. Peter Laviolette knows Rod Brindamore very well. And you look at the leadership in that locker room that has been through so many collapses, that has been through the 2-0 loss to Tampa, the 2-0 loss to New Jersey. We talked about it on the show yesterday, about having a coach that knew how to come back from 3-0 and a goalie that knew how to come back from 3-0 as a not safety net, but a guiding force in that locker room, and Jonathan Quick. This team doesn't do this last year, doesn't do it 2 years ago. There's a different vibe with this group, and it's special. Now, they need to find scoring from other areas besides the top 6, but the key was the top 6 had to be the stars last night. They had to be the guys that lift the victory. And you look at the stat line, Panarin gets two assists and 2 points. Trocheck, a goal and an assist. We talked about Kreider. 3 goals, 7 shots on goal. Mika Zibanejad gets an assist. He gets a point. Jack Roslovic, who you notice that Laviolette at times put Panarin on that top line with Kreider and Zibanejad when Roslovic needed a breather. But Roslovic had 2 assists. And outside of that icing situation late in the second, played a much better game. You take a look at the shots on goal for those top 6 lines. Lafreniere 2, Trocheck 3, Kreider 7, Zibanejad 1. So think about that. That is 13 shots out of 24 coming from your top 6. Your top 6 forwards. And that's what they had to do. They had to find a way to deliver. Same way Carolina needed their top guys. And Carolina's success came more from the second and third lines. Nishis was a nightmare to cover in this series. Seth Jarvis was one of their big point scorers in the Islanders series. But he's, I think, more of a top-line player. But Kuznetsov had 5 shots on goal. Jack Drury had 4 shots, and they hit a couple posts in the third period. They were getting more contributions from their second and third lines than the Rangers were from their third line, although Coley, Wenberg, and Kakko were doing decent jobs on the forecheck. But they're not getting offense from that thing. So as the Rangers go forward into a conference final, they have to have games like series like that against Washington, not where they have to sweep, but series against Washington where like you have a night where Gaudreau is the hero, or a night where Wenberg makes a goal, or VC, or somebody on that bottom 2 lines is gonna have to make a play. It's gonna have to win a game, and they're capable of it. But last night was all about the top 6, and they delivered. We'll talk about Chris Kreider and the upcoming conference final in a minute. I want to remind you that this show, as well as the other shows here on IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all better sports, are brought to you by Plant Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Plant Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, low in sugar, and high in protein. The Plant Jerky, jerky that is on a whole other planet. Follow them on Instagram at Plant Jerky or go to their website, planetjerky.net. But get some cool, those flavors really good, by the way. You gotta check that out. So we will take our first break. We will come back. We will talk about Chris Kreider, where he stands now in Ranger playoff lore. And we'll look ahead to the conference final. Game 6 tonight in Boston. So who should the Rangers rather play? The Panthers or the Bruins? We'll talk about that next here on New York State of Sports on IE Sports Radio. We'll see you in a minute.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your 5-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at SealTheDeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back here to New York State of Sports on IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all that is sports. Ricky Keeler back with you, talking about the Rangers prevailing over the Hurricanes in 6 games, advancing to the Eastern Conference Final behind that memorable performance by Chris Kreider. 3 goals, hat trick in the third period, and it was looking more at Chris Kreider's numbers in the postseason. Yes, now the best of 7s kind of give Kreider more sample size of stats. He's played in 82 playoff games in his career. He has had 33 goals, 52 points, but he's had 13 power play goals on 36 shots. So he's converted on the power play essentially 33% of the time, which is a really fun stat. This is a guy that, even after the game, talked about, hey, he's just looking forward to playing more hockey. His calm demeanor, I think, rubs off on the rest of the guys. And you knew he was going to find a way to make an impact in this game. That's why I wasn't really hard on him going into this matchup. Remember, he had the shorthanded goal in Game 3. That was big and kind of changing momentum in the series. He was always big on the penalty kill. I think that's what you learn about the Rangers is, yes, their power play went through some spells, but their penalty kill stayed consistent throughout. I mean, yes, they gave up a couple of power play goals in Games 4 and Game 6, but Kreider is big in both the power play and the penalty kill. I mean, you look at Kreider in terms of shorthanded goals. He's had 2 shorthanded goals in the postseason in his career in terms of... And this is a player that knows how to get it done on the penalty kill. Last night, what is his 7th hat trick? First one in the playoffs. His last hat trick came in February of this year against Montreal. So this team, yes, they go as their captain goes. They go as Jacob Trouba goes. But they kind of go as the way Kreider goes. And and think about that Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere line as being the best, I think the best line in the NHL this year. Where you have Panarin, who should have been a finalist for MVP, wasn't. Trocheck definitely broke out in his second year here, and Lafreniere has become maybe not the number 1 pick that he was supposed to be, but think of the impact Lafreniere had in this series, where he was making the goals that kept him in Game 4. He had the 2 goals in Game 2. So you're seeing an emerging player happen right in front of your eyes, and it's good to see. I don't think you have an issue right now in net. Igor's been as strong as ever, even though the stats will tell you that, hey, the Hurricanes have scored 11 goals in the last 3 games. So maybe Igor's hitting a spell to that effect, but you still trust him to make the big saves. And he's still a guy that I think, you look at the goalies remaining, I would have to say he's the best goalie left. I mean, you have Oettinger and Georgiev in the Stars Avalanche series. I think Igor's better than both of them. You have the goalie for Vancouver. I think it's Sheilov, and then the Edmonton goalie situation, which has been weird, and the Florida-Boston matchup, which we'll dive into, with Bobrovsky and Swayman. I think Igor right now I would take them against anybody in the league. So you've got that going for you. The Rangers, by the way, they have broken the President's Cup trophy to an extent. There have only been 2 teams that have won the President's Trophy and made it to the conference final, both of the Rangers, this year and in 2015. So they've kind of broken the notion of that's why I hate it when people said you had to avoid winning the President's Trophy because of the curse of it. Doesn't matter. if you have the team that's capable of doing it, remember the Rangers had to win the President's Trophy. That's why you got home ice. Think about it. If you don't have home ice in this Carolina series, you probably don't win. Because you got to rely bounce of the puck here, bounce of the puck there, and you can't prevent that. Think about how close this series was. Think about the fact that outside, there was the first 4 games, each one decided by a goal, and take the empty netter away. In Game 6, that game's decided by a goal. Think about how many posts both Carolina hit in Game 6. The Rangers hit a bunch of posts in Game 4. That could have helped them win the series in 4 games, and I think they'll learn from this experience. It now becomes something you can laugh about. Hey, remember when we went almost up 3-0 and we almost went to Game 7, which would have been Saturday night? Now they can brush that off and get some rest and prepare for the next matchup. So the Rangers will host either Florida or Boston in the Eastern Conference Final. Panthers are up 3-2. That Game 6 is tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern on TNT at TD Garden. And the question is, which team should the Rangers want to play? Now, it's the conference final. You're playing a tough team regardless. But I think the Rangers would rather play the Bruins because Florida, I think, is the deeper team. Panthers went 2-1 against the Rangers this year. They scored 3 or more goals in each game. Rangers did win a shootout against them, 4-3 back on March 23rd. That's the most recent matchup. That's the only matchup since the trade deadline when Florida made some upgrades to their team. When you look at the fact they added a Tarasenko, former Ranger, Kyle Poso, who's got a couple assists in these playoffs. So they made moves to get better, but you look at their goal scoring situation in this playoff. Sam Reinhart's got 5 goals. Andrei Barkov's got 5 goals. Matthew Tkachuk's got 4 goals. And Bobrovsky in net has definitely... Remember, this is the team that made the Stanley Cup last year. Lost to Vegas. Bobrovsky has saved almost 90% of his shots. Goals against about 2.51. And when you look at the series in detail with Boston, outside of Game 1, when Boston broke through with 5 goals, the Bruins have scored a total of 7 goals in the other 4 games. So Bobrovsky's bounced back after a rough Game 1. Boston, you look at their situation, Brad Marchand has been hurt for the bulk of the series. Obviously, you worry about him whenever you play the Bruins, but Trent Frederick's got 3 goals. Morgan Geeky's got 4. They have David Pastrnak, who's got 4. Jake DeBrusk has 5. But there's a lot less scoring options on the Bruins if Marchand's not healthy. I think on defense, they're a defense you can exploit. Florida's very good on special teams. You look at Charlie McAvoy, who has struggled for Boston through the bulk of this postseason. Swayman is definitely the better goalie than Linus Ullmark. He's shown that, a 2.16 goals against in this playoffs. 93% save percentage. Remember when the Bruins were trying to alternate goalies against Toronto and it found out that Swayman is just the better option. But the Rangers were 3-0 against the Bruins this year. And I think scored around 14 goals in those 3 games. Now, would it be fun if the Knicks won tonight and you had New York, Boston? Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I think Florida's going to hang on to win this series. I can't see them blowing a 3-1 lead. But again, you look at all all 3 teams that had 3-1 leads lost Game 5s. So it wouldn't be shocking. You've had close series galore. You had former Ranger JT Miller beating the Oilers last night with under 40 seconds left in Game 5 to get Vancouver a 3-2 lead. That series goes back to Canada, goes to Edmonton Saturday night. Colorado will try to keep elimination away tonight at home against Dallas. They'll try to get it back to Texas for a Game 7. These series have been close. So the question is, are the Rangers the best team left? I mean, it's close between them and Florida. I think at least in the East. I think if Florida played the Rangers, I think it would be a 6-7 game series. But the Rangers, if they're not number 1, they're number 2 at least. And to make a conference final for the second time in 3 years, that's something that doesn't happen very often. And you keep seeing the 1994 comparisons keep coming in. And you kept hearing about the Kreider Messier stuff, and then I'm watching the MSG postgame, and they're saying how Kreider is the same age as Messier, it's scary. This team feels like a team of destiny. Team of destinies win games like that last night. Now, does winning last night mean the Rangers are going to win the Stanley Cup? No, not necessarily. But things are breaking in the right direction for them. And for this core, which, again, if they lose that game last night and they lose Game 7, that core probably gets a shakeup in the offseason. They avoided that. And I think the goal for this team is to get at least to a Cup final. Chris Drury's built this team to get to a Cup final. You could argue about the trades. They didn't make it. I'm thinking back watching the game last night and saying to myself, man, if they had just, when it was 3-1, when they should have traded for Jake Gensel and added that extra offensive piece, and because they're not getting the consistent performances from their top lines. But it didn't matter. So the Rangers will wait. Game 7 would be Sunday for Florida-Boston. The NHL hasn't exactly said that if Florida wins, the Rangers play Sunday. I don't think that's the case unless all the series are wrapped up by then, which it wouldn't be because Vancouver-Edmonton Game 6 is Saturday. I guess if you could play Sunday. Because right now, if you look at that Dallas-Colorado series, and I'll pull that up real quick. Dallas-Colorado Game 6 is tonight. And then Sunday, Game 7 is Sunday. So all the conference semifinals will be done by Sunday. Rangers would love for it to be Monday, I'm sure. Remember, if the Knicks do win tonight, the Eastern Conference final wouldn't start until Tuesday because the Timberwolves won last night. That Game 7 will be Sunday. Minnesota didn't just win, they annihilated them. The Nuggets. That was impressive. So the Knicks at least now know, hey, a win tonight, and you get 3 days off before you play Boston. And that would be a blessing in disguise for them. The Knicks lose tonight. Game 7 would be Sunday. I believe that doesn't matter what the time slot. It'd be 3:30 ABC regardless. But tonight, 8:30 on ESPN. Knicks-Pacers Game 6. And maybe there was an omen for what happened in the WNBA last night. The Liberty go into Gainbridge Fieldhouse to play Caitlin Clark, and they win 102-66. They hold Caitlin Clark to 9 points. I'm not saying the Knicks are going to blow out the Pacers by 36 points. I don't believe that. But who knows? Maybe a New York team winning in Indiana, maybe that continues. And the Fever will play the Liberty Saturday, but for the Liberty to hold Caitlin Clark to 9 points was really good defensively. Brianna Stewart had 30-plus points. Just a heck of a game from a team that I think you're seeing it with the WNBA. Teams are gearing up to play Caitlin Clark, and Fever got to bring it night in and night out because of all the pub that's going on around it. So again, be sure to follow me on Twitter at Rickinator555. Follow the show on Twitter at NYStateSportsIE. Follow the network on Twitter at IE Sports Radio. You can email me, rickjkeeler@gmail.com. We'll be back Saturday morning for Knicks-Pacers Game 6 wrap-up. We'll either be talking about a Knicks series win or looking ahead to Game 7 against Indiana, which would be Sunday. And then you'll either have a post-game Monday for that, or the next post-game if the Knicks do win would be Rangers Game 1 of the conference final. Well, hopefully, if Boston advances, we'll have the Beantown D. Dortch from Beantown Blitz join for a show or two. I do have some options for Florida, so we're hoping to do some more interactive shows. We'll try to get Adam Karnick back on for the conference final. I think that'd be pretty cool. But it's all about the New York Rangers. Chris Kreider has his signature legacy game, a hat trick in the third period. The Rangers looked like a team that was flat for 2 periods and really 5 periods if we go back to the beginning of Game 5. But they flipped the switch, and their leader had to help them flip the switch to do it. But this is a team that Peter Laviolette, in his first year as head coach, did what Gerard Gallant couldn't do, and that's get this team into the conference final after the disappointment a year ago. I mean, Gallant did it, but Laviolette, to make this quick of a turnaround, you're seeing why he was wanted as a head coaching candidate. Seems to push the right buttons. Didn't seem fazed by a rough first period because the Rangers, I think, felt they played a good period up until the late goal. So this team's ready. Now they'll get to rest for play either Florida or Boston. And a chance to get back to the Stanley Cup, which is what this team's goal is. They need 16 wins to get there. To hoist that trophy, they're halfway there now. And to say that you're one of the top 4 teams in the NHL is a memorable occasion. They'll bask in it today, and then they'll get ready for whoever they play, depending on if it's the Panthers or Bruins. Knicks will try to counter that tonight. Can they bring that energy to the floor? Can they get that fast start, continue that tough play that they had in Game 5, and send themselves to some rest before a trip to TD Garden and the Boston Celtics? Thank you all for tuning in today. I greatly appreciate it. Enjoy Game 6 of the Knicks tonight, and I'll see you back here to wrap it up tomorrow. Enjoy the game, everybody.